a good thing. Welcome back. It's Rika Star Rose. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for returning. If you've been here before, well, self-worth. So you want something. There's a situation, a job, money, a person. What typically blocks people is the self-worth aspects of these things. Just kind of like going over this, it's like there's two systems at play. So now I know of like the energy world, and like that's like the real world to me. Like that's the real thing that's happening. Everything is energy, and you're aligning with things based on the energetic state that you're in. But we've been taught our whole entire lives about the systematical hierarchy of things in a way that it's very so unattainable, and they're hard to get, that it's like unreachable. Like there's certain things that look unreachable. And I feel like for me personally, this is based on that systematic, it's like a total facade. It's this, like there really is a hierarchy, so to speak, but the hierarchy exists due to this energetic situation that's happening. So regardless, it's being portrayed as though it's just a thing that is. It is the way that it is. When in reality, even the hierarchy that we see, the systematic hierarchy is a result of this energetic alignment with those people and those situations. With all of that said, so I grew up in a very small town. I grew up in a very small area. There's a lot of limitations, and I come from a very humble background. There's lots of ideas that were really wired in at a very young age. In terms of going after certain things and things that may or may not have been for me. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this can relate to that feeling, those thoughts. So I'm like going after success, whatever that looks like for you. I know that there's like this prepackaged, now everything's on the internet, but back in the day, there was limitations in terms of what you could see electronically on TV or whatever. Like the idea of success looks very much like this prepackaged thing. I don't know, maybe people walking around in business suits with briefcases and like having a lot of money and driving a certain kind of car and living in a certain type of house. And that's like success and being at the top of your corporate game or whatever. Those are the ideas that landed in my consciousness at a very young age about what success is. Success for me, something very different. Like I said before, not to go on and on about this, but I do have a lot of hobbies, interests, and really spend a lot of time in my creativity and in those interests. To me, that is putting energy toward my success. If I'm successful at those things, fitness, YouTube, just different areas, learning French, taking boxing, it's success in those areas, though that is success for me. And of course I do have, financial goals as well. So, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, I see myself as, walking around with a briefcase and a business suit. Though I do like me a business suit once in a while, but don't have the desire to walk around one 24/7. Anyway, just how different things that happen when you're younger can really affect your ability, or your even feeling like you should or you could go after something that you want to go after. Because there's this idea, I remember feeling this way. I remember standing in my living room, and I don't know why. I don't know what made me feel this way. I probably wanted something really bad. There were some limitations in that situation, so I probably wanted something that in the moment I couldn't have, and probably ended up with this idea that certain things are for certain people. And I do remember seeing things on TV, like people living in like, mansions and whatever, and saying something to my mom about like those types of people or something like that. So anyway, it's really powerful, the ideas that things that you convince yourself of. You have to understand that you're actually doing that too. At a young, I'm not going to blame myself I'll take responsibility for everything that's ever happened in my life. But I'm not going to blame the young child version of myself for taking these beliefs on. Those are very powerful beliefs. They're very intentional. They were very intentional by those situations that put that out into the world. That was a belief that was very intentional. They wanted people to have that type of belief about those things. Hard to obtain, stuff like that. But I adopted the belief when I was younger that like just of those types of people and those situations, and they're off limits. They're for certain people. They certainly weren't for me. They weren't for my family. And then when that happens, so this is what happened when I was a small child, okay? That belief like sat in my subconscious. It's like, this is something I wanted to share because it made me laugh today. It's like a scene in like Titanic, the movie, where there's like people like they're running around the ship, and there's like, there's like the people at the bottom of the ship like working on the literal like nuts and bolts, like they're working on, maintenance. They're doing maintenance on the ship. That's what I see about these little things, these ideas that we adopt when we're young. They're in the nooks of crannies of your subconscious, and they're sitting there and they're like working on stuff. So it's like, I want this. And when you feel that resistance, you feel like, nope, you can't. Why would you even think that you can have that? It's like those men, those maintenance people, like in the back of my subconscious, like working on this idea to kind of be like, no, that's not, we're restructuring this, like we're doing this over here, that's not for you, that's for them over there. And then they're like regrouping you, because that belief is sitting in there, and it was sitting in there since a very young age. And so those men working on those men, I don't know, maybe they're women, whoever they are, they're working on the ship, they're working on the gears, and they're doing this without you really being conscious and aware of it. And that's what's happening every time you feel that resistance of something's off limits to you. It's that you've adopted a belief somewhere that suggested that those things were for certain people, but they certainly weren't for you. So it's like somewhere in your subconscious, like that idea comes forth, and you decide that you would like something. I don't know if it's like a certain type of job or a certain type of partner, whatever it is. And it's like this thing is acting like a subconscious compass that's kind of like rerouting you in a different direction. It's like, no, like it's putting you back in this other direction. So, and I could sort of tie that in a little bit with what I was talking about in the last video about when your reality seems to break when you make a lot of changes. Because think about that. When you get to the point where you're like, no, I actually can change this belief. This is actually just a belief that I adopted at a very young age. And you actually start making changes anyway, and you start knowing that was all BS. And you start doing things to start making changes to go after something that you originally would have thought of was not on, like was off limits for you. And there will still be part of that old identity that is still hanging on to the old belief system, to that old energy of who you thought you were and the things that you thought were for you. And that's why things can pop up in your reality too. It's almost like trying to stop you from it, trying to block you from it, trying to convince you that you are still this other person when you are trying to upgrade, and you have successfully upgraded in many ways. You are starting to know your power, you're starting to know your worth, and that older energy, that older version, the ego, will still try to completely derail you from what you're doing. So that is really normal, and that will happen. And the issue with that is, the unfortunate thing about that is that when these things happen, it's very easy to be discouraged and then fall back down into that. I'm going to be very sensitive when I use this word, but I use this word for myself whenever I go into this state. So this isn't to be dismissive of anybody who is struggling in a really bad way or anything like that. I've certainly had my share of serious struggles, but to slide back down into that like victim mentality, because that is a very powerful thing, and really it's the only thing that's keeping you in this other state that is having you align with these lower circumstances. If you reject that old version when it pops up and it starts freaking out, panicking, and starts throwing out all these like crazy things in your path to kind of block you from this progress, if you stop that in its tracks, if you still keep going, if you might feel discouraged, but you keep going anyway, eventually that will stop happening. I probably should have mentioned that in the last video, but that's a temporary situation. It's a temporary setback. It's just you growing, and it's a test to see if you are going to stay on your path. And there's another point I wanted to make about that. Here's the derailment of my consciousness. So things that you don't feel are for you. I guess I'll go back to that, because that was like kind of like a little side note, kind of tying that into why you might have these self-worth issues. But like I said, I come from a small town, very humble background, and it's very easy to adopt beliefs coming from that. And of course, comparing to other people and other families, it's very easy to compare to those things, those situations, those realities and circumstances, and accept that my reality was just the way that it was, and there was nothing that could be done about it, and that was just the way it was for me. And I could just adopt that's the way that it is for me. And I certainly don't blame the small child version of me that adopted that belief. But now that I'm an adult, I will go ahead and say that now that's a victim mentality that I am giving to myself. That's an identity that I'm now choosing if I were to have that, thought process. But I don't choose that. So the goal is to consistently reject that when that comes in, because it is just a victim state, and it's coming from the ego, and it's coming from the small child that adopted these beliefs due to circumstances. And as a small child, you don't understand that you're aligning with things. You kind of just react to things that are playing out, and you're just growing up in an environment that there's situation, there's family dynamics, and you're kind of just reacting to it. So when you reach, when you're an adult and now you realize, and now if you've stumbled upon this kind of understanding, I'm assuming that, if you land on my channel, you already resonate with this type of content or aspects of it. You understand that now you are doing it. And I'm not saying that to dismiss anybody for any really bad circumstances that you're going through in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying, I want you to know how powerful you are. You're very, very powerful. And it could take a lot of practice at first to understand and consistently tell yourself different stories for when these types of things happen. Whether it's financial or, it's your work situation or relationships or whatever it is, money. If you hear, it's just like, label it like it's the voice. Picture the men Or people, maybe it's not men, I don't know. It's people in that ship that are working on the gears. And you see like the welding and stuff, and there's like sparks flying all over the place. Picture that in your subconscious. That's the story that you adopted when you were a small child. That's floating around in your subconscious, and it's trying still to reroute you to things that like are for you. But that was just a story that you took on because you didn't know any better, because you were a small child. Noted. Perfectly acceptable, more than acceptable. Now you're an adult, and now you know that that's just a story that you took on based on circumstances that were a result of whoever it was surrounding you. These are the things that you observed, and these are the conclusions that you came to as a result of that observation. So you don't have to tell yourself that story anymore. And as a matter of fact, you really should stop telling yourself that story. That is an old story. It's no longer serving you. And basically what I suggest when that happens and this pops up or something happens to test you, look at it like those people working on the gears, or just the story that you adopted based on some, like I remember standing in my living room, and it was probably a time when I saw something on TV and I was having a conversation with my mother about it. Those types of people. That was a story based on something I saw on TV, and I took on that story, and that's just a story, just like any other story. Just like Bedtime for Francis was a story that I liked when I was a small child. It's the same type of story. I don't have to take on the story of what I saw on TV with people. So getting back to this victim mentality state, it's kind of a triggering word. But like I said, I use this for myself. I 100%, I mentioned EFT, emotional freedom technique, and couple other videos, and I will actually talk about that more in future videos. But I just want to mention it randomly right now because there are scripts that do really focus on that. That really focus on that and dig deep on that. It's funny, the things that are most triggering are the things that you really should be looking at the most and first and foremost, because the things that are the most triggering are the things that are affecting you on a regular basis the most. So it could be like something that you really don't want to look at. I'm not suggesting you don't, allow yourself to feel the feelings that you have about something that you're going through, but allow yourself to also let them go and move through it and not stay attached to those feelings and that circumstance. Because the longer you sit there, the longer it just keeps regenerating and realigning with similar things. So, and that's what the victim mentality does. Like being in a state of victimhood is really just, it's putting you in an energetic state that is perpetuating those similar situations, those similar circumstances repeatedly. And it can be scary. I want to address this. This is a really good thing. It could be scary. It could feel unsafe because this, even though it's you're aligning with crappy circumstances, it's almost like the idea of rejecting this old identity and these old ways of thinking, of allowing yourself to be in a victim state. It's like there's something scary about rejecting that. There's something scary about being like, you know what, that's not what's going on here. Like almost like lying to yourself. It's like there's something scary about telling yourself a different story. Like something bad's going to happen if you tell yourself a different story. No, that's just the old version of you trying to hang on to that old version of you. It's your ego trying to make you stay consistent with that older version of you. If you practice rejecting those old thoughts and rejecting those old ideas and those old beliefs, you will see that things will start to massively shift for you in your reality. When you realize what you are doing and realize that you are actually, when you find yourself in a victim state, and you are perpetuating these ideas that this is just the way that it works out. This always happens. Things just always happen to me this way. If you stop that in its tracks and you consistently practice doing that, things are going to massively shift for you. It's just that change is scary. Change feels very weird. Coming outside, recording myself for the first time that I did it was really weird and scary. Recording myself in my car with the idea of people coming by, like jogging by, walking their dog, whatever they were doing, driving by, somebody just drove by. That was really scary and weird, but this is something I wanted to do for a really long time. And I don't want to be controlled. Like, I don't want to be controlled like that. I want to do the things that I want to do, and I want to be free, and I want to be free to be who I am. And some people might mock that, and that's okay with me. So that's what I'm suggesting for you. Like, when we get fearful about making changes, I think it's like there's so many levels to cover with this. Because when it comes to like the victim mentality, I think we do that because as small children, that has gotten us things that we wanted. You know, taking a temper tantrum may have gotten you what you wanted at some point as a child. But in adulthood, it doesn't do that anymore. It does the exact opposite. Why does the small child align with what they want taking the temper tantrum? Probably because they're still in a much higher frequency than adults are. So even a child taking a temper tantrum is still in a much higher frequency than the adult who's jaded, that's taken on all these ideas and beliefs throughout all of their life. And now it's heavy energy. The child that's taking the temper tantrum is still in a higher frequency than the adult that's just kind of like going through the motions of life. That's how I come to realize that's why it happens. And the child probably also knows that they're going to get what they want by doing that. So that's another aspect of it. Adults don't. So adults don't allow themselves to know that they're going to get what they want. We complain about not having the things that we want, and then we kind of whine about it as if we are a child. Instead of just letting yourself know what you want and then knowing that you're going to get it. That's how you get it. So like that's how the child got the things that they wanted, and that's how you would get the things that you wanted. But the problem is what we do is we block ourselves because of all these limiting beliefs that we picked up, feelings of victimhood that we just don't get. We're just not the type of person that gets what we want. And you just perpetuate that reality over and over again. And then the ego gets to be right about it. And then you're right about it. See, this happens because the ego loves being right. So then it doesn't get to change. You don't get to get the things that you want because what's more important is being right about not getting what you want. But if you allowed yourself, know that you're innately worthy. Because these ideas, you have to understand like the power of those who control certain ideas and things that were on TV. Now there's a lot of things on the internet, very much designed to keep you in a state of feeling like things are very limited and they're off limits. They're only available for certain people. Just as the same as things that were on TV. Today's video is about self-worth. Dig deep into. Try to think of some things, like brainstorm of some things that happened to you when you were younger and where you could have picked up some of these beliefs, and know that that's all that they are. They were beliefs. They were from your limited perspective at that time. You concluded certain things. You gave things conclusions, but that was just based on a limited perspective that you had at that time. So you walked around your entire life with that belief, and then you applied it to so many other things, and then just perpetuated that reality and then made it right. I just want to show this because the last time it was all like snowy. It was very pretty and magical. And it's still pretty and magical, but it's just cool to see like how it looks in different kind of there's like other places I already have queued up in my mind to do the videos outdoors. Be really fun. It's cool because there's a place that there's like this field that I wanted to do back before I launched my channel. I kept wanting to record in this field, and I guess I couldn't get up the courage to like do it. And now that I'm over here with like, there's probably nobody in that field ever. And there's like people all over the place back here. I mean, it's not like a ton of people, but you know, there's like a trail, so there's people biking and running and walking, and you know, people like come back here and park and chill and stuff like that. So there's a couple places that I think it'll be a little bit more quiet, but really cool scenery. Like, just I think it'd be really fun and magical to do some videos in some of those other locations, and it'll mix it up too, because this has become my consistent kind of thing. So I want to consistently stay out of my comfort zone by mixing things up. Although I do like this little format kind of thing that I've created. It's cool. And I do realize also that I do cover like, I typically cover like several topics. I do like a 3-topic kind of thing in a lot of the videos, and like most of the videos. And I like that. I do that. I think that's kind of fun. I think I like it because it also launches like another topic for future discussion. But as time goes on, I think people that click on any of my videos might see a topic that really sticks out to them. So I do want to make sure that I'm taking time to really focus on one specific topic. Like, there will be videos, and maybe most of my videos will end up being like just like talking about like one specific thing, because I think that that's typically what you do. I mean, that's typically what I've done, is like, you know, if I see a specific topic that I'm looking for some feedback on, you know, obviously that's why I'm clicking on the video. So I want to make sure that I'm doing that as well. I don't want to be like too overwhelming and just all over the place and just scattering all these topics. The topics tie together, I think, really nicely, like the ones that I've done. I think that's why I probably lapsed into some other things, is because I kind of tie them together. But again, I want to make sure I'm digging deep enough into some specific topics that could be really helpful to people. Also, update on my storage unit. A non-profit organization that was recommended to me by the owners of the storage of the company. It was, well, the woman in the office actually suggested. There's a couple nonprofit organizations that pick up furniture for free, and so I reached out to a couple places. So those 2 places, they both called me back, and one of them I was able to make an appointment with like right away, and they picked it up. And so totally closed out storage unit, not a single, it's completely done, which is an absolute miracle to me. I mean, I know it sounds like, oh, okay, it's like not that fun, it's like boring, but I mean, just how overwhelming this thing was. And I kept giving myself, I'm sure we all do this sometimes, but like giving myself that idea that I was going to like clean it all out. And one weekend I was just going to go in there and clean it out. And I realized that is not ever going to happen. So, I just got this thought, like, there's so much law of attraction type content out there. And again, my channel is like, you know, it's self-development, self-improvement. I know I say next leveling in my description because for some reason it seemed like it was telling me that up leveling. I believe in quantum jumping, like I really do. I don't want to overwhelm anybody who's new to like this type of content, because I know that could seem like really too far of a reach, but I really believe in up leveling several rungs of the ladder, so to speak. Like I like next leveling sounds very much like, and again with the Atomic Habits book, it's like getting to the next level will take you to the the higher levels, but you could skip those levels. You could skip those mid levels. I mean, I'm all about up leveling, quantum jumping, quantum leaping. You get really good at practicing these things and managing your focus. You will see for yourself that is more than possible. And also, I wanted to just acknowledge, I know that there's so much content out there, just like I said in my very first video, but that's a good thing. The more people that understand these things and how reality really works, that's the goal. I mean, that's the goal. I think that's why we're all here. That's why there's so many more people talking about this. There's so many more people making content on this. It's certainly not a bad thing at all. It's certainly a very good thing, because like I said before, different things are going to resonate with people in different ways. So there's still new content that's coming to me just when I think that I have all my people. And that might sound weird. It's like I don't want to ever close myself off to new channels. But just when I have thought that, it's like somebody will pop up in my feed and I'll be like, maybe their title will really grab me, click on the video and it's like, oh my god, that was awesome. So it's like, the more the merrier. I'm still following more and more people, and I feel like just being another person in this kind of community of people talking about these types of things, that's it. There should be a lot of content creators on these ideas, because this is the reason why we're here. We're here to share this and get as much people who resonate with it to find this information as much as possible. That's the whole reason for it. So the fact that there's so many people talking about it is doesn't matter. There's literally a train. I don't know if I've ever experienced this before, and I've lived here for a very long time. There's a train on both sides of the water. It's good that I was freezing and had to come in, because that would be something to just be outside. My last video is like an audio disaster nightmare, and I'm really sorry about that. But with that said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing if you've subscribed. Feel free to like, comment, or subscribe if you have not, and I will see you soon.